As the mayor of the town of Clayton, I'd like to call this Clayton Town Council meeting to order. Thank you for being with us this evening. I'd like to ask you now to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance and for the invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Let us pray. Most gracious and heavenly Father, we thank you so much for the many blessings of this day. And we ask, Lord, now that you be with us as we proceed with the business for the town of Clayton. For it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right. Do we have any adjustments to the agenda?
Mr. Mayor, this is Town Manager Solomon. I'd like to do a special introduction. I know you're going to come to that, but I want to introduce Greg Tart in a surprise visit to my office about council meetings. So sitting beside me here is our acting police chief, Greg Tart, and we're happy to have him. And he's already making a significant impact on how things are going. So we're very pleased with him to be here now. So I wanted to at least let you see him virtually.
Right. Yeah, this is the first time I've laid eyes on him. I've texted with him a couple times. Greg, we cannot thank you enough for helping us with this active chief role. We know that, you know, you are definitely the right person for the job, and we're just so thankful, all of us in Clayton, that you are helping us out with all that you're doing. So thank you.
Well,
he's a man of few words. In case y'all don't know, he's a man of few words.
It's hard to talk virtually, Mr. Mayor. We keep us all quieted down with this thing, you
know. Awesome. No, that's great. Thank you, JD. Are there any other adjustments to the agenda? All right. If not, we'll move on to consent agenda.
Motion to approve. I'll make a motion to second.
We have a motion and a second. A motion by Councilman Bunn, a second by Mayor Pro Tem Thompson. For the consent agenda, is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed, like sign. Motion carries. All right. Next, we're going to jump right over to old business, and tonight we will begin with the Public Art Advisory Board project updates.
Well, good evening, Mayor and members of the council. The Public Art Advisory Board really appreciates this opportunity to give you and I mean brief overview of what we've been working on. As you all know, we're in charge of the new downtown mural project, the Greenway project, the banner project at the community center, and the sculpture trail. Tonight, and by the way, we have subcommittees for each of those. And they have done an amazing job. It's just, I'm so proud to be on this board. We also have a good time, by the way. Well, you can't be on a board like the people we have and not have a good time. It makes everything so much easier. But tonight we're just gonna update you on two of the projects, and that's the downtown mural program and the Greenway project. We'll report on the banner and the sculpture trail at a later town council. But right now, I'd like to turn it over to Kathy Nobles to update you on the Clayton mural program.
Mr. Mayor and I'm sorry, what?
Go ahead.
All right, Mr. Mayor and council members, I want to thank you for your appreciation of the arts. The Public Art Advisory Board is extremely excited about the new mural project, and we are prepared to work with the town to make this project successful and to continue to promote the arts. To make the mural project more successful, the Public Art Advisory Board is going in a different direction by creating an application for interested business owners that want a mural placed on their building by writing a set of protocols that all building owners must adhere to. All murals must reflect the character and culture and history of downtown Clayton. Clark and I headed the subcommittee of the board, which was set up to write out these protocols, in which we did in conjunction with Samantha, and excuse me if I don't pronounce this right, Waber of the Planning Department and Patrick Pierce of the Economic Development Department. I want to thank them for the initial review of the appropriateness and the completeness of the application. I know that Kim Moffett supplied you with the final draft guidelines for your review. And do you have any questions in reference to that? Thank you.
If you have any questions about any of these, you can always reach out to Kathleen, or you can reach out to me, and I will make sure I get the answers for you. All right. Now, Kim Helmer will update you on the Greenway project.
Good evening. My name is Kim Helmer. Tammy Murray, John McFadden, and I are the subcommittee of the Public Arts Advisory Board that have been organizing the art for the Sam's Branch Greenway. We decided to work with 3 different flower shapes to put up after the fish come down this spring. In the past, we've used the art students at the local schools, and it was a big project for the teachers each year. This year, with COVID, we took a different approach. Because many of the students are not in class, we decided to reach out to the community directly. With Heidi Holland's help, a message was put on the town's Facebook page requesting student artists, grades 1 through 12, who would be interested in painting the flowers. Within 24 hours, all 112 flowers had been claimed. It was amazing how quickly our community responded. We were able to distribute the flowers recently in a no-contact method in keeping with the town guidelines at the community center. Thank you to Kim Moffett for finding a location for this distribution. We also have several teachers who are participating at various schools and some community groups as well. We plan to hang the artwork on the Greenway with the help of Scott Bernard this spring. This project has been a real effort among the community, the town employees, and the Public Art Advisory Board. We want to thank you for all of your support of our art projects in this town. Do y'all have any questions about this project?
No, I just have a comment, and I just think it is so amazing that in 24 hours, all that volunteerism took place, and bam, it was done. You know, it really does. It's a real testament to, you know, people loving the whole public art thing in the town of Clayton. So thank you. Thank all of you for all the good work that you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And just before we leave, I just want to thank everyone in the town that has helped us with all these projects, because our goal is to follow every guideline that you want followed, and also to support what your vision is for Clayton. And we can't do that unless we work together as a team. And we've had an excellent experience doing that. And we look forward to continuing that experience with all of you for the other projects that we have. So that's it, ladies and gentlemen. If you have any questions, you can always contact me, or if you need any more information, will be available to you. Okay?
That's wonderful, Sarah. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
All right. Up next will be the Park and Recreation Bond Project update.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. It's our pleasure to be before y'all this evening. And I just want to take just a second in my introduction of Rachel Cotter with McAdams, Tessa Van Deen with HH, who have been leading this planning effort with the Parks and Recreation Department. But just to give you a little backstory, HH and McAdams have been tasked with staff, stakeholders, and yourselves through a design process to take the work that was performed prior to the bond, to prep for the bond, to a point that we'll describe as either a jumping off point or what will be ultimately 30% design. After tonight, we're hoping with a consensus decision from y'all that we would be moving forward to the completion of this level of design with both of these firms, taking the projects we're going to present to y'all to a 30% mark. At the 30% point, that really gives us kind of an off-road to pursue multiple delivery methods and to really start getting these projects off the ground for the citizens in Clayton. We're going to be making tonight's recommendations based on the feedback that we've received from stakeholders, staff, and the advisory board. And guiding our decisions and recommendations has always been the budget. Although we have $18 million in a bond referendum, out of that $18 million, not only do we need to fund the design and construction, but also the cost associated with the sale of the bonds with these projects. If y'all don't have questions for me, I'm going to pass the torch on to Janessa Van Deen with HH Architecture to begin a brief presentation of slides showing the work that's been done to this point. And the more questions for us and them, the better, so that we can really get these projects rocking and rolling for the citizens of Clayton.
Thanks, Scott. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for letting me be a part of this. Rachel and I have been, working together very much so on this project. So our presentation tonight is very much kind of a collaborative approach where we'll kind of talk a little bit about the park aspects and then a little bit about the building portions of it. So we'll be going back and forth a little bit, but any questions, please just let us know. And here my screen. Can you all see that?
Yes.
Okay, great. So quickly, we'll just kind of introduce ourselves, our team, and then move into really talking about the three different parks and the different building opportunities at Clayton Community Center and the Civitan Municipal Park. So here kind of is our team. I'm Janessa Van Deen, Senior Architect with HH Architecture. Not on the call this evening but very much involved in the project is Kristen Hess, our Principal and CEO, and also Dave Carey, Principal with HH.
And I'm Rachel Cotter, representing McAdams this evening, but of course behind me is a large team of talented landscape architects and engineers working on this project. And Janessa, if you want to go to the next slide, I'll kick us off. Oh, I guess we have the remainder of the project team. So working under McAdams on some of the other site civil and landscape architecture components are SNME, who will be serving as our geotechnical engineer. Stanford White, who will be completing the MEP components of the project. And we are partnering with MVP as our cost estimator. As Scott mentioned, the bond and availability of funds will be a benchmark for the project scope and success. So we want to make sure that we are well partnered with MVP to ensure accurate costs and projections throughout the project.
Similarly on HH, we're working also with NTech Engineering on the MEP of the buildings, and then Lunch Mikens for structural engineering.
We did want to share a little bit about the stakeholder involvement process. It was extensive leading up to this point. We met, as Scott mentioned, with a number of stakeholders throughout the community, special interest groups in various areas, from athletics to the community gardens, the Civitan. We also met with a number of the staff members who gave us a lot of helpful insight on actual park operations and design considerations, since they will be the gatekeepers of these projects after they are constructed. And we met with the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, who's been working closely on all of these projects to ensure that the entire community's voice is represented throughout the project process. Next slide. I'm going to begin with talking about East Clayton. Community Park. This is one of the existing parks that we've been asked to look at and provide a number of recommendations to. Each park, we're going to start off with the concept or theming around the project. East Clayton, we thought, is the premier soccer complex. So many of the recommendations would have a soccer theme, with the ultimate goal of enhancing playability across the park. Next slide. As Scott mentioned, we did design the park improvements to be thought of as a full build out of the park, very much rooted in the original master plans for these parks that were completed in advance of the bond referendum. However, we've done extensive site inventory and analysis and research around some geotechnical implications, as well as natural resources and regulatory opportunities and constraints, to develop some evolved and refined concept drawings that we're planning to move forward with as a basis for the 30% construction drawings. So you can see that the primary improvements here are the conversion of some of the natural turf fields in the western corner to synthetic turf. That's going to do a few things, but it really is going to extend the playability, the number of hours, and the town's ability to host tournaments and extend the length of play on these fields. And that, of course, is also extended with the addition of athletic lighting. Parking, we know, is a concern already in this facility, and we're very much constrained by the available parkland for development, but we do have plans to expand parking to the extent possible, and are also looking at some other further expansions of parking, although you can see the site is very constrained. Some of the other improvements are rooted in placemaking and the idea that we want visitors to feel like this is a special destination around soccer. So having some ground plane treatments that are soccer themed, some juggling lawn warm-up practices, some comfort facilities like shade, extra restrooms, and maximizing the use of the existing baseball field by putting a small practice field in the outfield. We can do that simply by striping. And then we also need to look at enhancing the stormwater practices across the site. There are a few what we call SDMs, or stormwater control measures, that no longer function as they should. And of course, with the addition of new impervious surface, we'll need to add some existing facilities to meet code requirements there. So the final thing I wanted to show is the area outlined in red are what we envision to be the initial phase of improvements. We need to split the first bond sale between improvements here at East Clayton Community Park and East Clayton Park and Community Park. And so these are the priority improvements that we've identified should fit within that budget. And that includes the conversion of 2 synthetic multi-use fields. We are going to have an alternate in the bid package for another multi-use field. The enhanced stormwater control measures and ponds, hoping also to make those a nice amenity and visually and aesthetically pleasing. Enhanced or expanded paved parking areas and new parking spaces. Move on to Clayton Community Park, and just stop me if anyone has any questions about the individual parks. I'm happy to answer those along the way.
I've got a question. Can you go back to your slide for Clayton East? I see. Is this just primarily going to be soccer fields? Is that it?
Yes, the focus of this park is soccer and making this a dedicated soccer facility for both practice and tournament type of play.
Okay. I'm good.
Sorry, was there another question?
No.
Okay. This Second part we looked at was Clayton Community Park. And when we evaluated this park, we really saw this as having multi-generational appeal. It's a true community park. It serves all age ranges, and moving forward, we wanted to amplify and exhibit this across some of the theming that we choose for the park. Not only do we want it to have that cross-generational appeal, but we want it to have pockets for individual focused age groups, being smaller children, youth and teens, and then active adults. So the theming for this park is rooted in the honeybee, and that's why you see all the honeycombs here. The honeybee and the use of biophilia will allow park users to connect with how the honeybee sees the family and the family unit, which is really a multi-generational approach to life as a honeybee. Next slide. The other thing to note about this project is that the town and the department has started conversations with the school system about having a more collaborative approach to providing athletic facilities and recreation facilities for both the department and the general public, and some of the programs that the school is facilitating. And so you'll see that we are making some recommendations to the middle school site for these reasons. If we look at this from a large picture perspective, we want to make sure the improvements we're installing now are very well coordinated, not only across the two sites, but across the entire town. So there isn't redundancy. We're very conscious of using taxpayer dollars in a really healthy way. So that's why we are proposing some of those amenities, but they are not necessarily part of this first phase of the bond project. So we're really focusing our improvements in a couple of areas. The first is the entrance along Amelia Church Road, and we are looking at some additional concepts to further maximize parking and enhance the vehicular circulation in that way to expand that parking. But we're proposing a new play area, and that would really be focused on that younger generation, the youth of Clayton, having something very fun and themed around that honeybee and those honeycombs. The second area that we're looking at developing is where the existing playground and sand volleyball and tennis courts are. So we're thinking that's going to be a teen-focused pocket or pod of the park. So with sand volleyball, some grills, just a fun area people can go and socialize that's safe and healthy after school or in down hours. And then finally, we're looking at expanding the area outside of community center as the active adult area. So relocating the tennis courts to this area and also installing them in a way that is multifunctional with pickleball, and relocating the shuffleboard and bocce courts here for this to be the state-of-the-art facility to host some of the state tournaments that the town is committed to. Town's also looking at some additional parking, expansion of the parking in this area, and a maintenance yard to support their operations. And then finally, we'll be working with the community garden and the representatives there to enhance the community garden space in that northern part of the site. And I will turn it over to Janessa to talk about the building improvements. Great.
Rachel, this is JD Solomon. If I could go back.
Hello.
What does it cost to move the tennis courts? I thought tennis courts are pretty expensive, and it looks like we're moving tennis courts for a parking lot and a playground, and I just wonder the economics of that.
Yeah, and I can share some of those costs with you if you give me a second to pull them up here. I think one of the thoughts was the tennis courts need to be resurfaced and renovated anyway. There's also a geotech report revealed a lot of standing water and subsurface flow, alluvial soils, so holding water in this area. And so we weren't convinced that we wanted to invest redeveloping the tennis courts in this location, and also wanted to consolidate them closer to the community center where there are some of those restroom and locker room facilities, and where we can consolidate the active adult amenities. And I'm going to pull up the tennis court.
I have a question before you go on.
Yes, sir.
These baseball fields, are these regulation size baseball fields?
2 and 3 are, and then the first one there, the smaller one, is more of a little league field.
Now, we had a regulation size at East Clayton. You've done away with that?
Those are the high school fields, Art.
Huh?
Those are the high school, middle school fields. Those baseball fields.
No, I'm thinking we had a regulation baseball field at East Clayton Park.
And that
We
was
do.
remaining.
And it looked like to me you were turning that into a soccer field.
We're only adding some paint to the outfield, so it could also be used as a practice area for soccer. So we are not changing the way that that field would be used for baseball in any way.
Thank you.
All right. Throughout
So
this.
you're moving. So you're moving those baseball fields? I guess you are. You're reordering and moving the baseball fields, middle school fields.
We
Yeah, because home
are-
plate's in the bottom right, and the parking lot's there where the soccer field is. Scott could probably help me, but those fields are turning in the wrong direction for Clayton Middle School's softball and baseball field.
Correct. Manager Solomon, this is Scott Barnard. All we're showing on the middle school, and this has been developed with input from the school system, we're not, number one, we're not spending any town bond dollars on the middle school property. But what we are showing, as the county is preparing for a bond referendum, and as the school is looking to make improvements to their athletic facilities, we're showing how our facilities could be more complementary, and that if they make those changes, how that use, we would have much more practical use of baseball for baseball tournaments for connecting the two sites together. So we've rendered that out, and it was actually with this rendering, or a predecessor to this rendering, that we applied for a grant from the county open space dollars to make improvements to that site that won't fund much more than that multi-use game court shown in the drawing. But the county is looking for ways to maximize that site, and having it essentially designed and schematic for them and showing it with our plans hopefully gives everybody a vision of how these sites can be linked rather than completely separate by both a fence and in management as they really were 6 months ago.
Yeah, I'm just concerned. I know that's county money, I guess, but flipping the baseball field and the track and reorient the baseball field, I mean, that's a lot of money just to say we're moving the baseball fields closer to our baseball fields. But I guess that's county money, but that looks very frivolous to me, actually. And I would love another baseball field at Clayton Middle School. I played on those fields a lot with my teams, but that's just something that looks, I don't know. I'll just say that. Just like I think the tennis courts seem to be frivolous, but it's just, I guess we're just reorienting everything and we got plenty of money, so.
So I do have the cost for that. We're estimating around $60,000 per tennis court. Again, we would have to repave and reconstruct some of the existing tennis courts anyway, and we can't promise the lifespan or longevity given the poor soils. There would also be some significant expense of excavating the alluvial soils and providing backfill with suitable soils at the existing location.
And not question, I'll shut up, but you're putting a parking lot on it, so you'd have the same problem with the parking lot that you would a tennis court.
That parking lot is somewhat I think most of the footprint there is existing. I think we added perhaps one bay of parking.
Okay, I'll be quiet.
All righty. Moving kind of into the buildings here, we have looked at a couple of different concepts and have kind of test fit them to, at these meetings where we've received input and have kind of settled. So you can see just kind of flipping through some iterations here, and took the most popular comments from each scheme and have come up with these two, this plan. So here's first floor, looking at outside of your the existing gymnasium, adding a locker room that could be used by the people inside, and also we could set it up so that it's used outside, which would be very convenient towards the the garden areas over here. Obviously, you just saw the site plans, the tennis courts, those different amenities could have easy access to a restroom. Other changes that we'd like to look at making would be to move the staff offices upstairs. You'll see that plan in a minute. And that really frees up space on the first floor to add an addition here for multi-purpose room. It could be, two medium-sized multi-purpose rooms with an operable partition to make a large one, and then add breakout space, very similar to, kind of what you have currently, where there's space to break out and to go outside. It was also suggested to add a kind of a demo kitchen. And then certainly we can never have enough storage. So we'll make sure that we have enough of that in there. Moving up to the second floor, really utilizing this single-sided corridor that we have and doing a bump out addition there to, again, like I said, move all of the staff offices upstairs. So we have added some additional offices and provided additional storage, a conference room, and space for the staff to continue to grow.
I have a question about the number of offices.
Yes, sir.
This is Michael. Currently, how many offices do we have?
We would be adding 3 additional offices, and that helps. Currently, there are kind of 3, I believe 3 workstations kind of utilizing an existing conference room, and so that the plan is then for that number of people to have offices and then to still have a conference room.
So we would consume the additional offices right off the bat and have no room for growth if the staff becomes larger.
We certainly can, given that we're only in the early design, if we have a target number that we'd like to, provide offices for, we can certainly make the adjustments to get that incorporated.
Well, I would certainly defer to Scott and his team and also the town manager about that, but just it's curious to me that we wouldn't really have any room for growth unless we modify the plan that you currently have up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. And then just some some quick some sketch images to give you an idea of what that bump out, 2-story bump out off of this would be as you're coming in from Amelia Church Road. And then similarly, we can make kind of off the back side of the building, patio area off the more breakout space off of the multi-purpose rooms. Okay. And we'll move into talking about Municipal and Civitan Park.
We prepared 2 concepts for Municipal Civitan Park. The primary difference between the 2 is around the decision to retain and expand upon the existing Civitan building or to construct a new facility. So what I'm going to present in the way of a site design concept for the first concept is considering a existing building addition, so retaining the existing building and just simply adding on to it. But the theme for this park is grounded in inspiration, and this being a park for inspiration with a lot of the site amenities rooted in the idea that when you come to a park, you want people to feel free and inspired. And so some of the things or the amenities we've included is Dreamcatcher Hill, and in Janessa, you can go to the concept as well. And having some other theme features like the Stream of Consciousness, which is really a SCM feature, but it would be an amenity. The Bog of Big Thinking, that would have a boardwalk across the stormwater management facility for some environmental education. A Warrior's Wisdom Ninja Warrior course, which just has kind of that warrior inspired theme. And a number of other amenities. Specifically in this one, we wanted to draw your attention to Creativity Court, which would be a large splash pad and playground right outside of the building expansion. So we envisioned a lawn for open play and large community events, with the backdrop being a band shell. And we would want to make sure that this space can accommodate the needs of any type of entertainers or performers, from music events to the fireworks that you could host here. And within the center of this field, to further expand the athletic potential of the town, we're just showing the footprint of a multi-use field. So if additional field space was needed, that this could be used as a practice area, but also doubles as the open lawn for events. And we have a number of picnic shelters and restrooms scattered throughout the site. We also have a trailhead proposed and a connection to Legend Park, and of course the larger Greenway network at that little corner piece of the parcel in the center eastern side there. We have a number, we're splitting the park too into the front of the park being the very community focused, the community event focused portion of the site, and then having the amenities such as the splash pad and playground and basketball and Warriors course that need access to a building and restrooms and lockers located close to the big building, and then using the rear of the site for some of the athletic amenities. So you all are probably familiar with the topography changes in the rear of the site. We are proposing what you see here as a multi-use field that can accommodate 2 baseball fields and a multi-use field simply by striping the fields. So this is very much a multifunctional approach. And then 1 additional synthetic turf multi-use field that could also be a baseball field in the rear. We're still working with the athletics programming to determine what the best field is and configuration for the fields in the rear would be. And I'll turn it over to Janessa to talk about the building expansion. Unless there are questions.
Yeah, Scott, this is JD. I assume this has not been updated to reflect some of our current discussions with Civitans. Is that correct?
Well, all of those conversations, and then you'll see the next rendering in a minute, all those conversations have been taking place simultaneously, and whereas the work that y'all are seeing before y'all today has been ongoing for months and months. So as those conversations began at the latter part of this design, we were keeping everybody apprised, but there wasn't a place to make any quick changes, nor did we want to stifle what we hope would be a future vision for that anyway.
Yeah, I just want to manage expectations. One, I know this looks great, but the town doesn't own the Civitan property, so I'm not going to get in legal battle, but we can't put a lot of our own investment into Civitan facilities. And in the current discussions with Civitans on a public meeting like this, I don't want the current group over there to feel like we're double crossing them or not honoring what we're having other discussions about now. So I'm just concerned that we're not managing expectations tonight with some of these renderings I'm seeing. So I just share that.
Well, one other thing I think is valuable to add is that the Civitan have been stakeholders in this process from day one, and these concepts were shown at stakeholders meeting and input was taken there. And then our close, if you will, tonight is our recommendation of sequence. When we began down this road of bond projects, I was 100% on team municipal / Civitan is where our first investment of bond dollars ought to be. But because of the current discussion with the Civitan and the fact that really hasn't come into focus 100%, our recommendation tonight is that we would be moving forward toward the projects at Community in East Clayton as the first projects we would complete, being that we will do at least 2 bond sales anyway, and that we would hold the Civitan project back as well as about 1/3 of the money, such that when that agreement is reached, which I'm confident it will be, we'll be able to take these plans or other ideas and bring those forward back to council and probably with this team around whatever the future looks like.
And Scott, just to manage expectations, a lot of the bust in the bond package dollars has come from this whole thing about building business and renovations at certain parks. So this is not the bond package money here that I'm seeing. It wouldn't fit into this. That 10-pound plan here won't fit into our 5-pound bond package, will it? Just getting it out there.
10-4.
Okay. Well, I thought.
JD, I got a question.
Yes, sir, Bobby.
Concerning the Civitan, and I know we're not there with the Civitan yet, and I know this probably has not even been brought up, but with me being a lifelong citizen of Clayton, with my dad who served on the Civitan for over 40 years, I do know that building has been named after Loomis Blunson, and I would be deeply disappointed to know that would go away, along with some of those fields that were named after a resident who was killed in 1976 here in Clayton by the name of Hal Wheeler. That should still be up over there. And I would hope that those 2 items would remain the same.
Yep. And my talking point, Councilman Bunn, would be to agree with you. One, we don't have the money to do this plan anyway in this current bond package. So the board would have to approve a lot more money to do that in some form. But 2, anything we do with Civitans, just to be clear for the record, we'll honor the Civitan tradition of football and baseball. And while we hope to increase our playing surfaces by as much as 40% if we partner with them, we're going to honor their traditions and their wishes from the past first and foremost. And that's not reflected in these renderings, but that will be done.
Good. Thank you.
This is Michael. Is it conceivable, I know you, Scott, were interested in wanting to begin at Municipal Park, and now it's in the 3rd position. So has any consideration been given to working on the front end of the park, which is the town property, earlier than that? Or is it much more feasible to wait and try to do that entire park, which would include both the town property and the Civitan property?
My gut, Councilman Grant, is that mobilizing twice to the same site will result in, some significant sunk costs, hundreds of thousands of dollars likely. But if we found ourselves as a town not in agreement with the Civitan, I would recommend that we would proceed with renovations of Municipal Park sooner than later, just because the amenities at the current Municipal Park are in just a terrible state of disrepair. But but I still have a whole lot of hope that all this is going to be able to come into focus with our conversations with the Civitan sooner than later, such that, you know, even if it's in the third position, so to speak, hopefully that's in the 3 to 4 year time frame, you know, for beginning rather than, you know, further out than that. You know, we have a 7 year clock that started on the bond referendum that we're already at the 1 year mark. So we really only have 6 years to go before we request an extension. So I would hope that the third position really feels like it's happening in a blink of an eye.
Thank you.
Okay. We can just look at the first concept that Rachel went over to kind of switch over to the building side would be to keep the Civitan building really just as it is and try to come up with a way to celebrate that with the additional amenities that are needed, whatever they may be. We are really just in the early design. So the program, the building, the spaces, all of that can change and ebb and flow as decisions are made. This is really just to give an idea, give a visual of what could be. So how these spaces could be on the same site, could be shared space, but separate buildings really. So that's kind of this initial concept.
I think everybody needs to be reminded that we've got $18 million. We don't have $25 or $30 million for these projects.
So,
Yes, sir. And Councilman Holder, I agree. And one of the things I think the public needs to realize is the financing and the charges for the bonds are also coming out of that money. So it's actually less than that amount of money by about $500,000 to $1 million of administration and origination costs and whatnot. So it's less than what the full bond is. So just to support what you just said.
We can't spend more money than we have, okay? We will not spend more money than we have as long as I have any input on it.
Jenna, so we can move to the last concept, and I'll just preface this with, we've certainly heard the comments here tonight and want to be very mindful moving forward that we're taking those into consideration, both the legacy of the Civitan, but also the budget for the bond and available funding for the project. And we're working closely with Scott and Joshua and their teams to ensure that we will come in on budget with the amenities proposed in the first phase, that some of these parks are very much a long-term vision. And by establishing that vision, a lot of the site improvements that are executed now will be more cost effective with the big picture in mind. Both of these concepts for municipal Civitan do have many aspects that incorporate the idea of heritage and dedication to the Civitan. We gave Scott and his team a brief presentation about what some of those things might look like, and we'd be happy to share that as this piece of the project moves forward. But to give you an idea, it would be dedication of some of the field names, bricks, site furnishings. We do have the chicken shack kind of reimagined and re-envisioned, so that aspect is retained throughout the lifetime of the project. We would also want to include the Civitan in any design charrettes to make sure that they are very much part of the design process. So your thoughts and concerns around that are very much heard and understood, and I want to assure you that we'll take those into account throughout the process moving forward. That said, we were asked to provide a second concept that illustrates what the park could look like if a new building were proposed, and that's what this concept does. Many of the amenities are very similar, so I don't necessarily want to go into those details, but the concept for this is around the legacy and the legacy of Civitan. It's very much a core principle of our work to acknowledge any site's history and culture and past, present, and future uses. So that would be an integral component. With regard to the fields, the previous concept did have dimensions that would allow for football and baseball. For this concept, and we could use the field configurations in either concept to address that heritage and those uses. We are somewhat limited by the topography in the back, so wanted to show two options of how we could arrange the fields in the rear for consideration. But again, as we understand it, the process moving forward is not to necessarily decide on the exact concepts to move forward with for this park until some additional concepts additional conversations have been had on the town side.
So then, trying to think about what spaces could be needed within really either concept. We shared this, if it was the existing Civitan building were to remain, but additionally wanted to share another concept with how a new building could be utilized and how we can kind of maintain all of the spaces that are required for all groups. It would just be, like Rachel said, kind of further conversations, further charretting with every party involved to make sure that the spaces incorporated into a building are what you all need. So not focusing really on the rooms or even the size of rooms, just that there are concepts. We are working through ideas and would love to continue the conversation. So with that, that's really all that we have this evening.
Sorry. So thank you. Any additional comments for anybody, from anybody?
Mayor, this is Michael. Is there have you developed a timeline as far as starting over at East Clayton Park, since that's going to be the first one?
We're anticipating. Oh, go ahead, Scott.
I'm sorry. No, Councilman, if tonight we had consensus, which it does not sound like we do, which is fine, we would be marching toward 30% design by spring. And then at that point in time, we would have, at least three options I can think of. One's to hit the pause button. One would be to move forward with full design, then bid projects out and go to construction. The other option would be to go design build, which, each process has its pitfalls, as well as, hitting the pause button could have ramifications as well. But if you're asking how fast we could move dirt, probably this time next year would be about the fastest things could move. Our recommendation is that we would proceed on the properties that we have site control over, which are Community Park and East Clayton Park. But you know, we answer to y'all. So we're looking for all of that feedback we can get so that we can bring y'all back a proposal that I will see everybody's head going in this direction rather than some heads turned sideways, which is, we're seeing some heads sideways tonight. So yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I would like to suggest, Scott, that I know you and I and Joshua worked on some capital programming, and I didn't see all the numbers here. I know this council loves to see their numbers. I want to show some more numbers, but there's also a couple other deals we're working on that, as you know, I've been working, it could drastically reshape this plan. I think those deals will be more ripe on December 21st. So I'd like to maybe suggest to council that we let them think on this a little bit and come back on the 21st and maybe have a bigger, fuller picture for everybody with some numbers on it. And so everybody can see it. But that's just a suggestion. And of course, the mayor and Mayor Pro Tem can go however they want to here. So.
Hey, I do want to make just one comment about the bond itself. I just want to make sure that, you know, when people did vote for this $18 million bond, they expected it to go, most of it to go towards the parks in itself. So I just want to make sure that that is in mind going forward with the money that we are using. I mean, I know we have a lot of stakeholders and other people that we are kind of trying to, you know, close the gap on, but you know, when people did vote for this bond, they are expecting that money to go into renovating and fixing its parks in itself.
Absolutely. All right, anyone else? Okay, if not, thank you all very much for that. And our next item on the agenda is under new business, and it is the RTZ agreement. You're on mute, JD.
I was going to say, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I think this will be a fairly quick topic. We have, you guys have had a small group to start this negotiation a while back, and we pulled this back about 2 meetings ago. Went back to the Johnston County Commissioners and had some discussions. I've worked with Attorney Ross and their attorneys and their manager. The agreement that you see was the final agreement that we reached based on your advice, and the Johnston County Board of Commissioners approved this today. So as we agreed, we would both consider it on the same day. They have approved, and all that I think is remaining is for you guys to take the vote to approve tonight.
All right, any questions or comments?
Mayor, I'd like to say, before we go any further, I'd like to take an opportunity. This has been a little pet project for all of us, as you know, but, and we kicked the can down the road on this one, but I would like to thank the Mayor Pro Tem, the county commissioners, especially Butch Lauder, for all the work behind the scenes that's going on to get this passed, because this has been one item that we've had a lot of heartache and headache over, and it's finally come to pass. So I want to thank everybody who's been involved.
And it came to pass with a unanimous vote by the county commissioners. So that was really good.
Unusual.
All right, any further questions on the RTZ agreement? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agreement.
I'll make a motion, we approve the agreement.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the RTZ agreement. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Okay, up next is the Volunteer Advisory Board appointment nominee recommendations.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. This is Kimberly Moffett, the Town Clerk. Before you this evening, we have recommendations for 2 of our advisory boards. It's for the Library Advisory Board. We have recommendations for 3 reappointments. All of those would be 3-year terms, and that would be for Stephanie Satakowiak. I'm sorry, Stephanie, I can't say her last name. Ethelene Eason and Carolyn Daly. All their terms would expire 12/31/23. And then our second board is our Fire Advisory. Also 3 reappointments. Brian Maynard, with an expiration of 12/31/24 on his term. Edwin Eldridge with a term expiration of 12/31/22, and Matthew Vesey with a term expiration of 12/31/23. And they're put before you for your consideration for appointment.
Any questions or comments on that? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve those appointment of those nominees.
I move we approve.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Holder and seconded by Councilman Granis. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. All right. Now we're going over staff reports, beginning with the town manager.
Yep, and I'll have a handful of updates here that I'll try to move through pretty quickly. No employee recognitions tonight because the employee of the year has been picked. And we've also started something new this year, which is the manager's award. They can call this the manager's COVID awards if you want to. But we thought based on the employee of the year that we have had quite a few people go above and beyond this year in a tough year. And so I'm doing, because I can, came down with 6 people to recognize in addition to our employee of the year. And those have been picked, but I don't want to announce them tonight, but we have been going through that process now for a couple of weeks. And it's pretty exciting, but I think, by the next meeting, and I'll save any discussion on that till next time. Our mid-year budget review is going well. We met, Rich and Robert and I met earlier, about a couple weeks ago, a week or two ago, and then we've been doing our regular meetings with our department heads this month and really focused on updating their budgets, where they were and where they're going. And so very pleased with that, very pleased with the job that everybody's doing. And Robert as well, keeping track of this with me, but we should have you some mid-year budget updates by next meeting. And so that way that would put you guys in a position to make any adjustments you want to make or do whatever before the first of the year per the budget you guys approved this year that required this mid-year review and update. Parks and Rec update, I had this already, but as you can tell, we're already negotiating with Civitan. I think most of you know that. We've also had a very good conversation, Scott and I, with members from the school, from the County Parks and Rec Department, from Facility Services, to work out where we can start using some of Clayton High School fields and gymnasium in the off hours in exchange for helping them with some maintenance money, which they need, and as well as maybe some capital improvements. They saw some of the things we were trying to do at the middle school. And this is really a groundbreaking thing for us as a town, I think. And it gives us a number of advantages of facilities. So we are working through that now. They've given us a draft agreement. And as we work through that, I'll bring that back to you December 21st to give you some concepts. And all that looks very positive. Councilman Granis also mentioned Municipal Park. And we are working to try to get the trailhead that we built over at Legacy Field and over at Parkview on up into the right field of Civitan Park and through Municipal so that we connect the trail system on around. And we're trying to do that with some discretionary money we have now that's not in the bond package, but that is some other enhancements we could bring to Municipal in the short term. More on that at the 21st. Just 2 updates. One, Unified Development Code. It's not on our list tonight, and I don't think Samantha's on this call, but I want to remind everybody and the public that that's a pretty significant change procedurally in how we do land development and some of those processes. We will either be voting on that in late January or early February, at least ready for you guys to vote on that. But I just want to remind everybody that that's coming and needs to stay on top of our list. And finally, our water reclamation facility, for an update there. I think you guys saw in the update I provided a couple of days ago, LGC did give us the last remainder of our $3 million. So we have our full $15 million, and our EA is at the midpoint of the public comment period. And I would just say things are going well. I wish it was going about a month or 2 faster, but we're in a pretty good position now, and progress is good on the water reclamation facility. So that's all I have, and any questions for me, I'll be glad to take them.
Any questions? All right, thank you, JD. Town Attorney?
Mr. Mayor, two things. First of all, I just need to make a note that we need to take a roll call vote when we do virtual meetings. So I would propose after my report to be in compliance with the new statute 166A-19.24. We take a roll call vote for both the RTZ agreement, which of course is the important one. We want to make sure we've approved that appropriately. But then while we're doing it for the board appointment and nominees for the volunteer advisory board. Second is I'll just say when we go into closed session, we'll be entering closed session tonight pursuant to subsection A6 for the purposes of hearing a complaint in addition to A3 matters for attorney-client privilege. And with that, I have no further report.
All right, so do we go to Kimberly for the hand vote on RTZ to go ahead and get that clarified for the record? What's the best way to proceed?
Sure. I think the best way to proceed would be to just have the clerk, take a roll call vote for each of those actions so that it's reflected that it was done to be in compliance with the statute.
Okay, we'll go back to the RTZ agreement then, and I will do a roll call. And if you just state your vote when I call your name. Mayor Pro Tem Thompson?
Yes.
Councilmember Granis?
Yes.
Councilmember Holder?
Yes.
Councilmember Bunn?
Yes.
Councilmember Everett?
Yes.
Thank you. Now we will move to the volunteer advisory board appointments. I'll call your names. Mayor Pro Tem Thompson?
Yes.
Councilmember Granis?
Yes.
Councilmember Holder?
Yes.
Councilmember Bunn?
Yes.
Councilmember Everett?
Yes.
Thank you. And thank you for that reminder, Catherine. Appreciate that.
Thank you. Anything else from the attorney? All right, anything from Town Clerk?
I have no other reports. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next with other staff is a library update with Joy.
Hey everybody, I'm gonna share my screen really quickly. I just wanted to tell you about a few things that we've got going on at the library. It's nice to have some positive stuff going on at the end of this crazy year. So let me start. Alrighty, so we are not doing our in-person programs like we would normally do in December. Usually we do take a little bit of a break, but we always try to do something for the holidays. So this year we have got, hold on just a second, Lucille the library elf. So we have joined up, we were visited by an elf the very beginning of December, just like the Clayton Parks and Recreation staff was visited by their elf Clayton. Lucille has been getting into a little bit of trouble. She's been rearranging our books and wrapping our bookshelves, and we're just having fun having her keep an eye on all of us because, we do like to get in trouble over at the library. And Lucille, of course, is she's kind of named after our library matriarch, Lucille Ellington. And she also keeps Lucille's ghost company at night because we do have a little library ghost action going on. The second thing that we're doing is we're keeping up with our annual Food for Fines drive. Every year in lieu of fines during the month of December, we allow patrons who have a number of fines on their account to donate some food to offset those fines. This is a really great way for people to feel welcome to come back to the library. A lot of times, even if somebody has a very small fine on their account, they'll feel like they're not allowed to come back in because they owe money. And this is a way for us to get people coming back to check out our books, often people will have a lot of books out, or they'll have a couple of items out that they just keep out because they're scared to come back because they think we're going to shush them or get angry at them if they return their books, which is 100% not the truth. In fact, your very own library director might have an overdue book at this moment. We do this, and we are able to give food to the Clayton area ministries. So this is actually, it ends up not really even being, it's a negligible amount of fines that we forgive. Last year we got boxes and boxes of food, but we still forgave maybe less than $250 worth of fines. So we feel like the return on investment, the goodwill that it builds with the community is just really worth it. And we're always grateful that we're allowed to do this. And so this does not apply to lost items. So if somebody loses a book, they can't offset that with the food. They still would have to pay for that. This is just for those overdue fines. And then the last thing that we're doing is a little library cookie contest. And so I invite all of you, especially if we have any baking council members or baking board members or baking staff members, bake a cookie and send us your recipe and a picture, and you might be able to win a prize. We've already gotten one in for some good eggnog cookies. I'm going to put some cookies up later on, even though I can't win the prize. I do a lot of baking. I want the world to know. But we just thought this would be a fun way to get people interacting and doing something fun for the holidays. We also have tons of books. We always have lots of library books on hand for the holidays. And so if you have a grandchild, a niece, a cousin, a brother, somebody, even if you can't see them in person, you can read with them over the phone. Check out a book from the library. If you like it, send them a copy on Amazon if they live far away, and see if you can read together. We always there's so many good opportunities for you to snuggle up and read a book in December. In the middle of at the end of such a rough year, some of these are really great ways to keep some of those great memories going on. And we also have lots of stuff in our ebooks and audiobooks. We have murder books for Christmas. If murder makes you feel cozy, you can read one of those. We also have lots of cookbooks in hardcover and also ebook and not audiobook, but we have ebook hard cookbooks that you can use. So if you're going to be cooking, you can do it. And some of our cookbooks are healthy. So if you decide that you're going to get healthy in December for some strange reason, I don't know why you would do that, you can do that with us. And one last thing I wanted to mention that is not in this presentation, but I did just find out that the library actually won an award from the North Carolina Public Library Directors Association. Our Page Burners Book Club won the Small Library Literacy Award. So we're really excited about that, and I'll be updating you about that hopefully after we get the actual award in hand. But that was another really fun thing that happened for us this December. So does anybody have any questions about Lucille? She's very wily, lots of trouble, or anything else?
The only thing I'll have to say is you are absolutely awesome.
Well, this was a lot of the staff really wanted to celebrate. I don't know how many of you have, I think most of you have met most of our staff members, but they are all really grateful to have the library to work at, and they miss our patrons, and they just are committed to being positive with each other in the space, and have decorated it up to high heaven. So it's a nice place to be. But thank you.
Awesome. Well, I would love to give you my cookie recipe, but my cookies aren't legal, so I can't share that.
Well, why don't you share the legal version?
Just kidding, JD. Just making sure you're paying attention. No,
we're watching.
You and your team are doing really great work, Joy, and I hear it everywhere I go around town. Good work's coming out of the library, and how important that is for where we are in this COVID environment. So we thank you and your staff very much for all the good work that you're doing there.
Great, thank you.
All right, any other comments for Joy? If not, we'll move on to the parking lot and the basement project updates.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Joshua Baird, Town Engineer. I don't know if this is by design, but I keep having to follow up on the cool stuff that the library is working through. But I guess loose seal is also causing some disruption around Town Hall, it looks like, as well. But I want to provide just a quick update on the basement project as well as the parking lot project. As far as the basement project, the waterproofing contract, the contractor, that is substantially complete. There's just a few punch list items that are still remaining that need to, that are hopefully the next week or two, those will get knocked out as far as the final punch list for the waterproofing. On the inside, the internal internal work is finishing up this week. There's a final seal coat going down the floor now currently, and then at the end of this week, they'll be working to start setting up the actual workstations later this week. Begin next week, start moving some IT equipment early in the week, and then hoping to have the inspectors and the positions moved in the new areas by the end of next week. If you notice, there's still some minor grading work and drainage work to be done along the outside. That's separate from the waterproofing contract, separate type of work than that contractor that's been waterproofing. We've talked with several, including Dangle Incorporated, who is working on the parking lot project. And as they are working on the parking lot, we're actually going to incorporate that minor grading into the scope of their contract and get that knocked out. So we're working through the paperwork now and anticipate that the final minor grading around the outside of Town Hall will begin in the next couple of weeks. On the parking lot, certainly moving along well. Contractor came in, demo went extremely well, went quick. Within a couple of days, the place looked completely different. If you recall, as part of the project, we got quite a bit of aging infrastructure, some water and sewer lines that needed to be replaced. We're currently working through the utility work now. Everything is moving along. We will have some disruptions on some services, as well as temporary short street closures in the upcoming weeks, but we're working with the PIO and the church and everyone to coordinate those and ensure that everyone's notified and we get that information out to the residents. Certainly the project, understand, is not the ideal, but certainly we're monitoring the situation in parking and trying to push it along as quickly as we can just to minimize that disturbance to the area. I certainly appreciate councils and the public's patience as we work through this and really look to improve our parking situation here at Town Hall, and we'll keep it moving. So if there's any questions, certainly happy to provide any additional information, or if there's any questions, I'll take them.
Where are we as it pertains to all the utility poles down the middle of the parking lot?
So the utility poles that they are a part of the design. The parking lot was designed with those. There is no plan to relocate those. That is a part of the project, and the design incorporates those in the islands and around them.
So in any of the schematics, the drawings that were proposed to us, did we have that visually in there? Because I don't remember seeing that.
Mayor, to be honest with you, I'll have to go back and look. I was not here for a lot of the schematics. I will have to go do some research into that and follow back up with you on that one.
I have a concern about that.
Okay, we can certainly look into it.
I'll have to agree with the mayor. It really looks like the backside of a dog out there with those poles up there.
Okay.
Ditto.
All right, any other comments for Joshua? All right, Joshua, thank you so much for the update. Good job. Up next will be a three-way stop at Kensington and Moose Ridge.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Rich Capola, Deputy Manager. Quick update for an item here. We received a request from the Glen Laurel Homeowners Association for us to evaluate the potential to install a three-way stop at the intersection of Kensington and Moose Ridge. If you're familiar with the location, Kensington tees into Moose Ridge at kind of the apex of a horizontal curve, which from a traffic volume standpoint was not necessarily a major trigger for allowing for a three-way stop there. However, there is some sight distance concerns coming out of Kensington. So in discussions with the police department and the rest of the public services folks here at the Operations Center, they are in support of installing that at the request of the Glen Laurel Association. So more of an informational item for you all to kind of be aware. Right now, staff is working with Kathy in the PIO office on a communication plan to get that information out to the residents And we hope to have that installed here in the next few weeks. We've got locates called in right now just to see if there's any conflicts with where we need to put some signs, but essentially our hope would have that installed prior to Christmas. So I don't know if you have any questions regarding that.
I do. I got a question for you, Rich. On these three-way or four-way stops, are you putting on flashing lights?
So initially when we change a traffic pattern like this, we're trying to do as much as we can to kind of get the attention of the drivers, particularly those that may have been driving that same route for years and years. So in the initial, we are putting some flashing lights at the top, as well as some highly reflective bars on the actual signage, on the actual signpost, excuse me, as well as some advanced warning signs just to say new traffic pattern, stop sign ahead, that kind of stuff. So we are trying to go above and beyond as much as we can to make that, make it apparent to the folks in the neighborhood.
I suppose what I'm getting at is I did a great job at Blanche and Barber Street, that four-way. Mm-hmm. It's really working. A lot of people are adhering to the stop sign, but I see we've got these little, about that square, little battery operated lights that are flashing. About 2 days, they start fading. What would it take for us to get some solar powered flashing lights on some of these four-way stops, and especially a two-way stop at Smith and 2nd Street, as we talked about last meeting?
Smith and 2nd, we were talking with the traffic engineers that we work with regularly to see what recommendations they have there. In terms of the flashing lights, are you looking for those to be permanent, or are you looking for those to just be more of a temporary until the condition is?
Well, I would think a four-way would just about need to be permanent.
Okay. So,
because I I'm really concerned about 2nd and Smith Street. I think they had another wreck there not long ago.
They did.
Yeah, and let me add with 2nd and Smith, and Rich and I have talked about this, but I've talked to the PD. I was in one of their meetings a couple of weeks ago, and so we're really trying to. A few years ago, they worked to kind of streamline that process between the equipment PD has and the equipment that Rich's folks have, and so we're going to be working on how to better integrate some of these traffic assessments with our local stuff, and a little bit better process. But that's yet to come. But I've mentioned 2nd and Smith at the PD, and I know Rich is aware of it. So it's something we're looking into, like we did on Glen Laurel Road with the hitting the power poles. How many accidents have we had? What's our counts and all that? So we hope to have you more on that early next year.
And how far back are you going for that information? Like, I would like to know over the last 3 years, how many instances we've had at 2nd and Smith Street? Is that kind of?
Yes.
How far back are you going?
Yes, usually it's at least 3 years. And we'll go back 5. The information there is probably good to get back 5 years.
Great.
Just to see. And for most of this, it's not lives lost that you're worried about. It's injuries prevented and life saves and wreck prevented. So it's a very positive spin. So we'll be looking for that.
Yeah, but I've had a few comments to me about they don't realize it's a frequent kind of thing at Smith and 2nd. So I just wanted some documentation that either show that just tell us what it is, Yep,
we'll get that for you. We'll get that with Rich from PD and from our other files.
We certainly bring that forward. That's part of the information that the traffic consultant's going to be looking at as well.
And before I let you go, Rich, the mayor brought up something last meeting, and it sparked a lot of interest with me and some of the neighbors on Fayetteville Street. I think you were going to start the process of a four-way at Blanche and Fayetteville.
Yeah, those are the two intersections that were brought up, the Fayetteville and Blanche, and then 2nd Street. Those are the two that we've reached out to our consultants. Obviously, there's certain warrants that we need to look at, as well as just general good engineering practices and design. So more to come on that as we get into that with them a little bit more. But we've started that process.
Yeah, thanks.
Yep.
All right. Anything else for Rich as it pertains to three-way stop? All right. If not, I'm going to move on to tree removal at the Barber Building.
Okay. So this one, again, somewhat of a follow-up, and I believe Patrick's on as well. He may have to fill in some gaps here if I don't have all my data in front of me here. But essentially, we've had a request for the folks that own the Barber Building to remove the 3 trees that are in front of them, in front of their property. If you're familiar with those trees, they're currently growing into the utilities as well as into the facade of the building. They've got some improvements to the actual building and some new tenants scheduled to move in here in the coming months. So they're actually prepared to, they've made the request to formally get those removed. So as of tonight, we're looking for direction from the council to allow us to move forward with the removal of at least those 3 trees. I know in the past we've had some conversations about whether we need to go ahead and remove more. Patrick provided a graphic at the last meeting, I believe, that showed approximately 14 trees that we've identified in the immediate as likely needing to be removed for some of those similar reasons in terms of interference with other utilities or other infrastructure. So tonight, like I said, we've got a request in front of us from the folks at the Barber Building to 401 East Main Street to remove those trees directly in front of their building, but we'll consider well, I guess we'll consider whatever the council would like for actually getting those removed.
Are you charging a fee for this?
So currently the fee of $250 per tree is the standard that we followed. The folks from the Barber Building are prepared to pay that if the council wishes, but certainly it's up to your discretion as to whether or not we have to collect that fee or not.
I suppose my question is a previous council, are they the ones that put this 250 in place? Or was this just developed by some staff?
I'm not aware of the discussions specifically. I don't know, Patrick, if you've had any other information.
It's been my understanding from talking to previous staff that this was a determination based on, I think, conversations with the council, but a staff level approval or a staff level policy of $250 per tree as I guess a fee in lieu would be the best way to describe it for eventual replacement of trees on Main Street. And that was from, I believe, Town Manager Steve Biggs, somewhere in that era, but I don't think 2014, 2015.
I just feel like, number one, the sidewalk doesn't belong to them. They didn't ask for the trees to be put there. The town put the trees there. And I don't agree with anybody having to pay to take them down. These people just inherited our trees, but then we're expecting them to pay a fee to take them out of there. I think that, regarding the issue at hand tonight, the Barber Building certainly warrants getting them taken away, because when you drive by there, you can't even see the front glass of the building to tell what businesses are in there for these big old trees that were not even the appropriate trees we put there to start with. I just have a lot of heartache with charging anybody to take away something that we put there. And that's very wrong as far as I'm concerned. But I do agree with the action tonight that I think we need to approve taking those trees down, because that is hurting that's got the potential, and it may be hurting their business, and we need to get those out of there.
I agree with Councilman Thompson.
Well, I just have to chime in that I have heard from several business property owners who have already paid the fees for that, and they don't think it's fair for it to just go away. So I just thought I would throw that out there. I don't have a dog in the fight, but just be aware that while the good and right answer seems like we need to do away with the fee, you have to keep in mind those people who have already paid the fee.
How many do we have?
Rich, go ahead. I'm sorry, Mr. Holder.
How many do we have that have paid for tree removal?
Well, that's where I was going. I know the barbers have a check cut for 3 at the Barber Building, and I think that's easy to tear up. We haven't taken it. I think Lynn Austin has already paid $250, and that's certainly something easy to refund. But I don't know that anybody else in the past year has asked to take trees down. But we could look back 12 or 24 months and see that and refund money. I wouldn't say we go back more than a year or two, though. I mean, we can't go back 10 years, I don't think, or 5 years.
My concern is those trees are a safety hazard for cars. If you don't park your car just right, you can dent your car by opening the door against a tree. And from my standpoint, it wouldn't bother me to take every tree on Main Street down.
And I would also like to add, if somebody would want their money back, let's give them their money back. Can't be that many people.
Patrick, do you have any idea from your research on this, looking backwards, how many trees have been cut down recently?
I will share with you my logic. I think we've collected approximately $5,000 since the fee was implemented. So at 250, that would be 25 people that have paid the fee, or I guess trees that have been removed. I don't know how many people that equates to, but it wouldn't be more than 20 to 25.
And you said it happened in 2014, 15 era?
I believe that's when the policy, yes.
So you're talking 5-6 years.
Let us do some research on that, on refunding the money if you guys want to do it. I think, like I say, the 250, as Patrick said, was a fee in lieu. But we'll get that information for you, and certainly can refund Miss Austin's money from earlier this year, a few months ago. The other part about cutting them all down, I think the number I saw from Rich and Patrick before was it cost us a couple $1,000s to cut them down. I know that they've identified kind of a red, yellow, and green. Let us look too, if you will, before we cut the rest of them down. We'll let Barber cut his down, or the Barber building. But maybe we need to look at a budget impact if we cut down 5 or 10, and how much money do we want to spend? Y'all make it tell us tonight. But I think there'll be economy of scale. Councilman Holder has indicated to me already to go ahead and take them all down, especially the red ones, but I don't want to hit a negative budget impact if we don't understand that completely right yet. So, but I'll yield to you guys on direction here.
Well, I think it's something that could be considered in the next budget.
Okay.
Yeah, right now, I believe there's 14 trees identified as needed to be removed immediately, just from the safety standpoint. 3 of which are these in front of the Barber building. So we can do our research and come back to you on that. But for now, so my hearing that we're clear to go ahead and remove the ones for the Barber, but we want to hold and come up with a plan and a budget to be able to remove the remaining ones, or more than these first initial 3. And we are not going to charge the $250 per tree for the removal of these 3 at this time.
Yep. And we will do, as the mayor said, look retroactively at who's paid in recent years and bring that number up as well.
Yep. And I'll work with Patrick and our staff over here at operations. I'm sure they'll remember every one of those trees that they removed since this has come in. So, and certainly we can certainly commit to, for any of these trees we're removing, if you'd like us to make sure that we're offsetting removal of these trees by planting additional trees on Arbor Day, to kind of offset whatever we remove, we can certainly work that into our normal plan for Arbor Day as well.
And have we had any recommendations or feedback from downtown development? Because, the whole tree saga began with downtown development. So have we had any conversations with them, JD, or any feedback from them about this issue?
In the last couple of months, all I've heard is people wanting to cut them down, but I haven't told them myself. Patrick may have better insight with DDA, but I have not heard anybody saying leave them up.
We haven't specifically brought this up to DDA, but I have talked to all the business owners on ones that we at least thought could possibly want to be removed or recommended removal. And many of them either have been engaged in DDA previously or are now and would like at least the trees in front of their businesses removed. Not necessarily, they haven't called for a wholesale cut them all down, but they've certainly noticed that there are troubled trees that should be coming down.
Cool. I just want to make sure we've covered our bases. That's why I'm inquiring about the DDA.
You can put that on the meeting for later this month and get their input on this if you'd like.
Awesome. Okay. Any other questions for anyone regarding tree removal? All right. If not, I'm going to move to informal discussion and public comment. And I believe Town Clerk has received some information that we need to put in for public comments. I'm going to turn it over to her.
That's correct. Thank you, Mayor. I have received one email from a citizen who would like his comment read into the record. Below are my comments for the Clayton Town Council meeting on December 7th, 2020, and this email comes from Craig Visser. He says, I emailed Mayor McLeod and Town Manager J.D. Solomon on November 25th, 2020, requesting an explanation into the placing of Chief Myhand on administrative leave. Neither have responded. I ask again that this issue be addressed in public so we may know why this council made the decision to place Chief Myhand on administrative leave. This is a significant issue and transparency is expected. Chief Myhand has served our community and country well and deserves our full support. That's it. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, now I'll jump on down to council comments. All right, being none, I will get clarification about our closed session. And yes, Catherine, are we doing this here on the computer, or are we meeting upstairs?
Mr. Mayor, we will do a motion to go into closed session. The council members will convene in 223, except for Council Member Everett, who will be joining virtually.
Okay, great.
And then we will return to close out the meeting after that. Excuse me.
Okay, entertain a motion to go into closed session.
So moved.
All right, made by Councilman Granis and Mayor Pro Tem Thompson and seconded by Councilman Bunn. All in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
And Kimberly, do we need a roll call on that?
Please. So Kimberly may have already stepped. Nope, there she is.
Nope, my phone died, so I'm in here. Mayor Pro Tem Thompson.
Yes.
Councilmember Granis.
Yes.
Councilmember Holder.
Yes.
Councilmember Bunn.
Yes.
Councilmember Everett.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, we're moving upstairs 223. other business to come before this council this evening? If not, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Adjourn.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you all. Good night.